the desperate man and the silent throne. The wind of the alien desert cut through Ethan Cole's torn jacket, carrying red dust that clung to his face and hair. His boots were cracked, his throat dry, and his heart heavier than the sky above. He had walked for 3 days across the wasteland that once held human cities, now only ruins under the rule of the Xerian Empire. Once he had been a pilot, a soldier, a man with pride, but now he was nothing, just one more human drifting between alien stars, searching for purpose everywhere he went. Signs warned, humans not allowed. He begged, he worked. He slept under cargo ports where alien ships glowed like dying suns. And when someone whispered that the widow Queen Seraphis of the Xerians was seeking laborers for her palace, Ethan took it as a final chance. Not for gold, not for glory, but for survival. The capital city, Cathares, rose before him like a dream made of crystal and fire. Towers of light stretched into the clouds. Bridges of silver moved like serpents. Aliens of all kinds passed him by, tall, elegant, their skin like glass and their eyes burning with color. He saw no other human there, and their stares told him clearly he was not welcome. Still, he walked to the palace gates. The guards stood like statues, clad in armor that shimmered with living energy. One looked at him and laughed. "A human here?" "The queen does not keep pets." Ethan bowed his head. "Please, I came for work, any work." The guard sneered. "You want work? Dig your own grave." But when he moved to push Ethan away, a calm, clear voice echoed through the air. "Let him enter." The gates opened without sound, and Ethan stepped inside the great hall of the Xerian palace. It was like standing inside a star. Light flowed like rivers across the floor, and the air sang with strange whispers. On the throne of silver roots sat the widow Queen Seraphis. Her skin was pale blue, almost translucent, her eyes deep like oceans, and her presence filled the hall with quiet power. Ethan knelt, unsure of the customs. His heart pounding, he said softly, "Your Majesty, I seek work. I can clean, I can build, I can serve." His voice trembled, echoing off the walls like a small wind in a vast cave. The queen studied him in silence. The guards waited, their hands near their weapons. Every second felt like a lifetime. Finally, she rose from her throne, descending the steps slowly, her long robe flowing like liquid silver. "You are human," she said, her tone neither cruel nor kind. "The last of a dying kind, yet you come before me, begging." Ethan swallowed hard. "I just need a chance. My people have nothing left." She walked around him, her gaze sharp and unreadable. "Do you think I have use for another broken soul?" Ethan didn't answer, but his eyes met hers, steady and desperate. Something in his gaze made her stop. "You fear death?" "But not me," she said quietly. Ethan replied, "I have already lost everything. There's nothing left to fear." The queen turned away, her long fingers brushing a glowing flower that bloomed beside the throne. "You do not seek work, human," she said, her voice soft but cutting. "You seek meaning." Her words struck him like thunder, because deep inside he knew she was right. The guards exchanged glances, whispering, but the queen raised her hand for silence. "Tell me your name," she said. "Ethan Cole," he replied. "Ethan Cole," she repeated slowly, as if testing how human names tasted on her tongue. "Once humans were fire and storm. Now they are whispers in the dark." Ethan felt shame and anger twist inside him, but he stayed silent. The queen looked down at him again, her eyes softening for just a heartbeat. "There was one human I knew who did not bow. He died with courage," she said quietly. "Perhaps you knew him." Ethan shook his head, confused. "Who?" She didn't answer, only turned back to her throne. "You will stay," she said finally. "Not as a worker, not as a slave, but as something else." The guards looked stunned. Ethan blinked, unsure if he had heard right. He asked, "Then what am I to be?" The queen sat again, her voice echoing through the hall. "That you will learn if you dare to see why your kind still matters." She gestured toward a side door, light spilling from it like dawn breaking through glass. "Follow me, Ethan Cole," she commanded. "If you wish to see the truth behind the Xerian throne." Ethan hesitated, his heart thundering. He looked once more at the grand hall, at the guards' hateful eyes, and then at the queen, calm, unbroken, unreadable. He felt something stir inside him, not hope exactly, but a spark without a word. He stepped forward and followed her into the light. Behind them, the great doors closed with a low hum. The guards stared at each other, whispering in disbelief. A human had entered the throne room and lived. In the galaxy's cold silence, that was the beginning of a legend. Ethan followed the queen through the glowing corridor, the walls alive with moving light that pulsed like a heartbeat. He had never seen such beauty. Every step felt like walking inside a dream. Strange symbols floated in the air, whispering in a language he did not know. The queen moved silently, her robe trailing silver mist that vanished behind her. They entered a vast chamber where crystal trees grew from the floor, their roots glowing faint blue. Soft music hummed from somewhere unseen, not played by hands, but by the air itself. Ethan felt small, a wanderer standing inside the home of gods. The queen stopped before a high door carved with human and alien shapes intertwined. She turned to him, her expression unreadable. "You humans once called this world a battlefield," she said quietly, "but for me it became a tomb." The door opened without touch, revealing a gentle light inside. Ethan stepped forward, his breath catching. In the center of the room floated a small bed of energy. A young boy lay upon it, his skin pale blue with faint freckles of human tone, his hair dark like Ethan's own. Machines hummed around him, wires of light connecting to his veins. The boy's eyes opened weakly. One was human brown, the other Zarian silver. He looked at Ethan, then smiled faintly before falling asleep again. Ethan whispered, "Who is he?" The queen's voice trembled for the first time. "My son, Kale." She stepped closer, her hand brushing the boy's forehead. His father was human. Ethan froze, his mind spinning. "A human?" "Yes," she replied. "A soldier, brave and stubborn. He died protecting me during the last war." Her gaze darkened. "Your kind called him a traitor. My kind called him a mistake." "I called him my heart." Ethan looked at the child, a quiet ache rising in him. He understood now why the queen had spared him, why she had looked at him with that strange sadness. She turned toward him, her eyes reflecting both sorrow and steel. "The boy is dying," she said. "He carries both our blood, but neither world accepts him." She paused. "He needs something no medicine can give, something human." Ethan frowned. "What can I give him? I'm just a man with nothing left." The queen shook her head slowly. "You can give him what his father would have given. Courage, laughter, stories, heart." Ethan stared, speechless. "You humans," she continued. "You fight, you love, you break, yet you rise again. That is what my son must learn if he is to live." Ethan felt the weight of her words settle deep inside. "You want me to teach him," he said softly. "Yes," the queen replied, "not as a worker, but as a father." Ethan looked at her in disbelief. "A father?" Her eyes softened. "He needs to see what it means to be human." "I cannot teach that." Silence filled the chamber, broken only by the slow hum of the machines. Ethan looked at the sleeping boy again, seeing innocence mixed with power, fear mixed with light. He saw a reflection of everything humanity had lost, and maybe a chance to start again. But deep down, doubt whispered. Was this truly mercy or something else hidden behind her sorrow? The queen walked to the window where the galaxy stretched endlessly beyond the palace. "Do you know why they call me the Widow Queen?" she asked. Ethan shook his head. "Because I have buried both enemies and lovers. I have ruled with iron, but I have no peace," she said quietly. "Your people hate me, my council despises me. Yet I rule to protect a future that both sides want to destroy." Ethan stepped closer. "Then why help me?" She turned, her eyes fierce now. "Because you are not broken, Ethan Cole." "You only think you are." She placed a small sphere in his hand, and it glowed with warmth, showing images of earth, oceans, mountains, children laughing. "Show him this world," she said, "through your eyes, not through history." He held the sphere tightly, feeling its pulse match his heartbeat. A strange courage filled him. Maybe he could teach the boy. Maybe he could remind the galaxy what it meant to be human. But before he could answer, a loud chime echoed through the room, red lights flashing across the walls. The queen turned sharply, her calm breaking for the first time. "Someone has breached the palace shields," she said. Guards rushed in, their weapons glowing. Ethan stepped back, but the queen raised her hand. "Stay with the boy, whatever happens, protect him." She walked toward the door, her voice steady again. "If I fall, he must live." "Remember that," Ethan called out. "Wait, you're sending me into danger without even knowing if I can fight." She glanced back once, a faint smile touching her lips. "I know exactly what you are. Human, you are fire." The doors closed, and silence returned, broken only by Kale's soft breathing. Ethan sat beside the child, the glowing sphere still warm in his hand. He looked at the door where the queen had gone. He didn't know if he trusted her, but something inside him had already changed. As the palace trembled in the distance, Ethan whispered to the sleeping boy, Looks like I've got a new mission, kid. The boy stirred slightly, his small hand reaching for Ethan's. Outside, thunder rolled across the alien sky. The legend of the man who came for work and found destiny had only just begun. Morning light filtered through the crystal roof of the palace, bathing the chamber in soft gold. Ethan awoke on a small couch beside Cale's glowing bed, the hum of the machines like a heartbeat around them. The queen had not returned since the night before, and the guards outside kept silent watch. Ethan rubbed his eyes and looked at the sleeping boy. Half human, half alien, fragile yet alive, he whispered. Guess it's just you and me, kid. Cale's eyes fluttered open. One silver, one brown, curious and calm. You're the human, the boy said quietly. Mother said you would come. Ethan smiled faintly. Yeah, I suppose I did. He began small lessons, showing Cale how to hold a ball, how to laugh when it rolled away instead of frowning. The boy watched him like he was studying a new language. Why do you smile when you fail? Cale asked. Because that's how humans grow, Ethan said. We fall, we get up, we try again. Kyle repeated the words softly, as if tasting them. Fall, get up, try again. Each day passed with tiny moments of warmth. Ethan told him stories of Earth, of oceans and forests, of a sky filled with birds, of children racing through rain. Cale listened wide-eyed, his face glowing in wonder. Were humans really like that? He asked. Ethan nodded. We were, then added quietly. We still can be. The palace servants began to notice the change. Where silence once ruled, laughter now echoed in the corridors. The child who had never smiled now ran, his laughter mixing with the hum of alien light. Even the guards softened, whispering that perhaps humans were not all weak. But shadows moved behind the beauty late one night. Ethan overheard two officials in the hallway whispering. The queen hides the human to protect her half-breed son, one said. If the council learns, they will end both of them, the other replied. Ethan's stomach tightened. He understood now that the queen's kindness carried risk. The next morning during breakfast, Kyle asked, Will I ever see Earth? Ethan hesitated. Maybe someday when peace returns. But they hate me there, don't they? Cale said softly. Ethan froze, the words slicing through him. He knelt beside the boy. Listen, kid, hate is just fear wearing armor. People fear what they don't understand. Cale looked at him with those strange eyes and said, Then teach them like you teach me. The queen entered quietly. Hearing the last words, her face carried both pride and pain. You are teaching him well, she said. He laughs, he questions, he feels. Ethan nodded. He's learning faster than I expected. She looked at him. He learns because he sees your heart, Ethan Cole. Yet the queen's advisors grew restless. They saw the boy's strength returning and whispered that a half-human heir would ruin the empire. Spies reported that human colonies were rising again, their leaders demanding revenge. Whispers of rebellion filled the outer systems, and somewhere in those whispers, Ethan's name began to appear, the human favored by the queen. One evening, as stars bloomed outside the window, Ethan told Cale the story of a soldier who refused to give up even when surrounded. Cale listened closely, then asked, Was that soldier you? Ethan smiled sadly. No, but maybe he was someone like me. The boy thought for a moment and said, Then maybe I can be someone like him. Ethan looked at him proudly. But in his heart fear grew, because he knew what courage cost. He remembered battlefields of ash and flame, and the endless silence after the screams. He had not come here to fight another war, but destiny seemed to circle back like a storm. That night, unable to sleep, Ethan walked to the balcony below. The city glowed with endless energy, yet he saw emptiness in its perfection. The queen joined him silently, her robe moving with the wind. You care for him, she said softly. Ethan nodded. He reminds me what it means to be human. She looked toward the stars. And he reminds me what it means to hope. He turned to her. What happens when your council finds out? She did not answer immediately, her voice calm but heavy. Then I will stand alone again, she said. But at least I will stand for something pure. Ethan asked quietly. And what about me? The queen's eyes met his. You, Ethan Cole, will remind them that humanity is not weakness. Before he could reply, a small hologram flickered into the air beside them. It showed ships burning in space, human colonies under attack. The queen's expression darkened. The rebels are losing, she whispered. Ethan clenched his fists, memories flooding back. Faces of friends lost in the first war. He turned away, torn between duty to his kind and the life he had built here. Kyle appeared at the door, frightened by the alarms now echoing faintly through the palace. Ethan knelt and held him close. "It's all right, kid," he said, though he didn't believe it. The Queen placed a hand on his shoulder. "You must protect him now. The storm has returned." Ethan looked up, his eyes filled with determination. "I will," he said. "I won't let the galaxy destroy this child's hope." Outside, thunder rumbled through the alien sky. Ships moved like shadows between the stars. The fragile peace that had begun in one palace chamber trembled on the edge of collapse. And deep inside Ethan Cole, the soldier long thought dead, began to awaken again. The lessons of humanity had begun to spread, first in a child's laughter, then in a queen's heart. But in the darkness beyond the stars, others were watching, waiting. And they would soon remind the galaxy that one human's courage could still change everything. The betrayal and the war's return. The morning sky above Catharis burned red, a color that always meant war was coming. Ethan stood on the balcony beside the Queen, watching the distant flashes in the clouds. Alien warships hovered above the horizon like silver ghosts, their engines humming low and steady. "The rebels are moving closer," a guard said nervously. "Human ships from the outer rim." The Queen's face remained calm, though her hands were trembling slightly. "They want me dead," she said quietly, "and they will not care who burns with me." Ethan turned to her. "Then let me go to them. I can talk to them. I can make them understand." She shook her head. "No, they will not listen to one who stands beside me." He looked down at the city below, shining towers, peaceful streets, alien families who had learned to smile again. For the first time, Ethan realized what was at stake. It wasn't just about humans or Xerians anymore. It was about the child sleeping in the next room. Kale was the bridge between both worlds, and if he died, hope would die too that night. Ethan sat beside Kale, who clutched the glowing sphere of earth in his hands. The boy looked up and asked, "Why do they fight, Father Ethan?" Ethan smiled faintly at the title. "Because they forget what really matters." "Can we remind them?" Kale whispered. Ethan brushed the boy's hair and said, "We'll try." But peace never lasts long when fear rules the stars. As the palace slept, shadows crept through the halls, men in black armor with human insignias on their shoulders. They moved silently, cutting down guards one by one, their eyes burning with rage. At their head walked a scarred man with cold eyes, Captain Draven, a name Ethan knew from the old wars. Draven had once fought beside him, a hero turned fanatic. He believed no peace could exist with aliens, only domination. Now he marched through the Queen's palace, ready to destroy the symbol of unity she had built. Alarms blared, echoing through the crystal walls. Ethan woke instantly, grabbing his weapon from the table. Kale sat up, frightened. "What's happening?" "Stay behind me," Ethan said, his voice calm but sharp. The door burst open. Blinding light flooding the room, Draven stepped in, smiling cruelly. "So it's true, you serve the alien Queen now." Ethan aimed his blaster. "Draven, stop this madness. There are children here." Draven laughed. "That half-breed child is an abomination, Ethan, don't you see? You've betrayed us all." Ethan's hand shook. "We've both lost enough. Don't make this worse." But Draven raised his weapon, pointing it at Kale. "Then die with your mistake." A blast of light fired, and Ethan threw himself in front of the boy. The bolt grazing his shoulder, pain burned through him, but he stood tall, firing back, forcing Draven's men to retreat into the corridor. The Queen arrived with guards, her eyes blazing with fury. Her voice thundered across the hall. "No one harms my son." She raised her hand, and a wave of blue energy exploded outward, throwing the rebels back. The air shimmered with power, walls cracking under the pressure of her rage. Draven sneered. "Look at her, the alien witch protecting her pet human." Ethan stepped forward. "She's more human than you now." "Draven!" Draven charged again, but before he could strike, the Queen unleashed another surge of light. The explosion sent debris flying. The rebels scattered and silence returned. Broken only by Kale's sobs, Ethan dropped to one knee, clutching his wounded arm. The Queen turned to him, her voice trembling. "You risked your life for him." Ethan looked at Kale and smiled weakly. "He's worth it." The Queen's eyes glistened. "You are not a servant, Ethan Cole. You are his father in truth." Outside, the sounds of war filled the sky, thunder from the ships, screams from the streets. The Queen's advisors begged her to flee, but she refused. If I leave, my people will think I am afraid. And fear will destroy them faster than any weapon, she said. Ethan gritted his teeth. Then we fight together. She looked at him, her gaze soft but strong. You would fight for us? I would fight for him, Ethan said. Nodding toward Kale, the Queen smiled faintly. Then humanity may yet be saved. They stood side by side as the palace shook, explosions lighting the night like lightning. Ethan shouted orders to the human guards who had chosen loyalty over hatred. The Queen commanded her soldiers with grace and power. Together they defended the gates, the corridors, the throne. Hours turned into chaos and smoke, the palace half in ruins at dawn. The enemy fleet retreated, leaving fire across the sky. But victory came at a cost. Hundreds lay dead, and the Queen herself was wounded. A deep gash along her side, Ethan caught her as she stumbled. You need a healer. She shook her head weakly. No, protect the boy, he looked at her, refusing to leave. I'm not letting you die. She smiled faintly through pain. You can't stop death, Ethan, but you can shape what comes after. Her words felt like a whisper from destiny itself. That night, as medics tended to the wounded, Ethan sat by Kale once more. The boy clung to his hand, tears streaking his face. Will Mother be okay? Ethan looked at the Queen's closed chamber door and whispered. She's strong, she'll find a way outside. The red dawn returned, painting the broken towers of Catharis in blood-colored light. Ethan watched the sky and thought of the words she had spoken. You can't stop death, but you can shape what comes after, he understood now. The war wasn't just between humans and aliens, it was between hatred and hope, and he had already chosen his side. The fires of battle still burned across the horizon when the first light of dawn touched the city. Smoke drifted above Catharis like a ghostly crown, and the palace stood wounded but unbroken. Ethan Cole walked through the shattered halls, his arm bandaged, his heart heavy but steady. Everywhere he looked, alien soldiers bowed slightly as he passed, for they had seen the human who fought beside their queen. In the healing chamber, the Queen lay weak but alive, her blue skin pale, her breathing shallow. Kale sat beside her, holding her hand, whispering softly in both human and Xerian words. When Ethan entered, the boy looked up, eyes shining with both fear and hope. Father Ethan, Kale said. The healers say she needs rest, but she doesn't listen. The Queen smiled faintly. Queens rarely do, she murmured. Her voice thin but proud. Ethan knelt beside her. The people are rebuilding, the rebels have fallen back. She nodded slowly. But they will return, and when they do, the galaxy will burn again. He shook his head. Not if we give them something worth fighting for. Her eyes searched his face, and what would that be? He answered quietly. A future where humans and Xerians stand together. Not as enemies, but as family. The Queen looked at Kale, then at Ethan, and a tear slipped down her cheek. I wanted to believe that, she whispered, but I needed someone to show me how. Ethan took her hand gently. Then let me show you. Days turned into weeks. Kale recovered quickly, growing stronger each day, running through the palace with laughter that echoed through the marble halls. The soldiers smiled when he passed. The same boy they once feared now carried light wherever he went. Ethan trained him like a father trains a son, not just in strength, but in kindness, courage, and mercy. He taught Kale how to pilot a small ship, how to read human stories, and how to listen before speaking. The boy listened to every word, hungry to learn. Sometimes at night, they would sit on the balcony watching the twin suns rise. Kale would point to the stars and ask, Do you think they'll ever stop fighting out there? Ethan would smile. One day, maybe, if we teach them to see what we see, but peace is never without price. A message came one evening. The human fleets were regrouping. Preparing another strike, the Queen gathered her council, her voice firm despite her weakness. We cannot win another war, she said. We must unite. Or both our races will vanish, the council argued. Some demanding vengeance, others retreat. Ethan stepped forward, his voice cutting through the noise. You all fear each other, he said. But fear has never built anything. It only destroys. He pointed toward Kale, who stood beside him, small but unafraid. This child carries both your blood and mine. He is proof that we can be more than what we were. Silence filled the room. The Queen rose slowly, every movement heavy with pain yet filled with grace. Ethan Cole is right, she said. If the galaxy must have a new ruler, let it be one who carries both worlds in his heart. Gasps echoed through the chamber. Ethan turned to her, shocked. What are you saying? She smiled faintly. Cal will lead one day, and you will guide him, he tried to protest. I'm no leader, I'm just... She stopped him with a glance. You are the bridge, Ethan. The father of two worlds. That night the queen grew weaker. Her body failing though her spirit remained bright. Ethan stayed beside her. Cale sleeping on the chair nearby, she whispered. Do you know what I saw the first time you stood before me? Ethan shook his head. What? She smiled softly. A spark, and small, fragile, but pure. Humans call it hope. Her hand trembled as she placed it over his. Promise me when I am gone, you will not let that spark die. Ethan's throat tightened. I promise. She closed her eyes, her final words a whisper carried by the wind. You came seeking work, Ethan Cole, but you gave us life. When the suns rose again, the palace bells rang. The queen was gone. Her body turned to light as Xerian tradition demanded. The people gathered in silence, and above them, Ethan stood with Cale, holding the ancient banner of unity. Half human, half alien, the day was known as the dawn of two worlds. Ethan led the ceremony, speaking with steady voice. We are not enemies, he said. We are survivors, dreamers. Builders of what comes next. The queen believed in that. And so will I. Years passed, and the legend of Ethan Cole spread across the stars. The human who begged for a job became the man who shaped a galaxy. Cale grew into a wise ruler, guiding both races with the lessons his father had taught. And in every school, every temple, every colony, the same story was told. The story of the man who found meaning where others saw only despair. On the anniversary of the queen's passing, Cale and Ethan stood together on the balcony overlooking the twin suns. Do you ever miss Earth? Cale asked. Ethan smiled, watching the light dance across the horizon. I don't think I ever left it, he said, because everywhere there's courage. Everywhere there's love, that's home. The suns rose higher, painting the palace in gold and silver. Two worlds had become one. And their father watched with quiet pride. The galaxy remembered his name not as a warrior, but as a symbol. A reminder that one desperate man's plea for work had become the first step toward peace. And so the story of Ethan Cole, the human who begged the alien queen for a job, ended not with death but with hope. A hope strong enough to light 1,000 worlds forever.